We are, in fact, live. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, humans of all shapes and sizes, we are we are live in spite of the fact that there's a thing on my screen saying, no, no, stop, end video now. I'm not listening. What I am doing is I'm going over to the other screen because I have such a cool thing to show you. It's insanely fabulous. Just give me a second here. I just have to refresh. Refresh. Okay, so now scroll down. Charles is here. Good morning, Charles. Good morning, good morning. Right, all right, so I'm holding the light bulb because something brilliant has happened and I have to show you before I do anything else. Vern! Vern, good morning, good morning. I'm actually awake. Good morning. Good morning, my lovely. All right. This is just so awesome. I can hardly stand it. All right. Hang on. All right. I have to do this right because it's just so brilliant I can't stand it. Ready? Are you ready? Okay, here we go. All right. So what that is, and it's being held by a mom glove. What that is a mixed metaphor. So here's the thing. I'm going to be in 5 days as I'm going to FanaticCon, which is a wonderful little boutique event in Ottawa. And how it's different it's different in many ways, but one of the big ways that it's different is that it's a small space and it's very informal. So one of the ways that it's informal is that they don't have in trade shows there's a term called pole and drape. So they don't divide the booths physically for you. There's a tape on the floor, and then it's up to you to do whatever you want within your space. And so typically what you do is you put up a banner of some kind. Well, this year I took leave of my senses and I told Lance, who was our showrunner, that I would be willing to be beside the stage where it's very busy and very exciting and very active. It's also really noisy because there's music and dancing and singing and laughing and hugging and all that kind of stuff. And I said to myself, that's my town. However, I did want to create a separate Robert Foxtall from the horror. I needed to have another banner. So I have one banner and it's wonderful, but I needed a second one. And I was trying to think of a way to do this without breaking the bank, and it was kind of last minute. And I was scrolling all over the internet, and I saw something pop up. It was a shower curtain, and I said, "Well, that's not a banner." I mean, I said it, and then I thought, "Well, you know what? Why not a shower curtain?" So I typed in black shower curtain, and I don't know what it was. I don't know whether it was a glitch or not, or whether it was just meant to be, but the Care Bears shower curtain came up, and I sat there looking at it thinking, oh, well, that's perfect, isn't it? So I ordered it. And then the most astonishing thing happened. I had all kinds of weirdness about it arriving and not arriving, and getting emails saying it's undeliverable. And then I got one the next day that's saying it's been delivered. And so neither of which made any sense at all. So I reached out to their customer support, which is a euphemism, not exactly necessarily a fact. And I said, so where is it? And they said, well, we don't know. And then this lunatic And how interesting that you blamed the courier for doing that, because if they didn't, that's called libel. What a great thing is going on here. Anyway, all of a sudden yesterday is a knock at the door, and I went to the door, and it was my neighbor. And my neighbor said, this package came. I don't know who it's from. And it literally had nothing on it except the address. It wasn't delivered to mine. It was delivered over there. And when I opened it up, sure enough, there it was. And I thought, you see, that shower curtain wanted to come to Fanaticon. And it moved heaven and earth to make sure I would take it with me. Isn't that incredible? Anyway, I know, I don't know, if I don't move, I have half an hour, I don't know. All right then, all right then. Charles, you know that. Oh dear. Anyway, the the whole idea in making this magical is is a kind of a thank you and a kind of um no, I guess thank you is it. It's a thank you for the process that has allowed me to understand how these things work. People sometimes become fan of shows. They enjoy shows and they enjoy doing certain things. And then there are people who identify with a show. It becomes part of them. They feel that in some way there is something about that show that matches something in them. And when I first started hearing that, lovely. It was confusing to me. And but I've been doing a lot of work before I started doing the poetry book. I've been doing a lot of work on not merely who our ancestors are and why we do what we do, but it's part of the homework that I do when I'm working with clients who want to write books. I need to know where they're coming from, and I need to know why it matters to them. So I ask them a lot of questions in order to figure out where they are so I can go stand next to them. Because a lot of the time when I'm working with a client, I will ghost some of their content. They will write what they write, and then I will sometimes create some of the threads that link the bits together. I have to be able to give back to them something that sounds as though it came from the way they string their thoughts together. And the 2016, 2017, I was working on this project. It was a really exciting project for a client who wanted to have a legacy memoir written to honor his dad, who had been a trailblazer, who had built a community, who had changed the map, really, where they are. And in order to be able to write that, I asked the client if it would be okay if I went and talked to people in the community and got their various and different impressions of this man so that I could, do the tapestry. And he thought that was a great idea. And he said, my dad's a bit of a rebel, so you might not always get positive stories. And I said, it doesn't matter whether they're positive. It matters that they paint a really good, accurate picture that's fun to read. So I was interviewing this man I happened to know. I discovered that he did work in that community, and I thought, well, what's that about? So I reached out to him, and I said, I want to talk to you about the way you know this man and how your paths crossed. So this friend of mine works in the car world. He's in racing, and he has raced cars, but mostly what he does is he works in the the running of races. He's a track steward. He's a safety guy. He's the organizer. He's the troubleshooter. And so I've known him a long time. And I said, so how did you bump into him? And he said, well, it had to do with racing. So we wandered down that path and we talked about that for a bit. And I said, when was the first time that you got bitten by the bug, the car bug? And it was funny. We were having our conversation on the phone because I knew him so well I didn't need to get in my car and go all the way over and see him. And he said, that's a really interesting question that you ask. And he said, I will never forget the moment that I knew I was in some way going to wrap my life around cars, and special cars, not just run-of-the-mill. And he told me this. He said I would have been 7 or 8, and my mom was out of town on some business. And my dad was a tall man, and I suddenly had shot up. Suddenly I was tall that summer. And he said, come on, let's go for a drive. And my dad had this vintage car, beautiful old car. And I was suddenly tall enough to be able to sit on the bench seat beside him and reach the pedals. And I said, I could drive this, Dad. And he said, yeah, that's my plan. And so what his dad did was he said, scooch over a little bit. I'm going to let you put one hand on the steering wheel, and I'm going to let you feather the gas. I'm going to use the stick shift, and I'm going to do the brake and the clutch. And so this guy, around the age of 7 or 8, found himself driving down a country road with his dad in this vintage car. And together as a team, they were driving. And he said, I've never forgotten it. Never forgotten it. I've always wanted a car just like that. And every time, and he said, and eventually he got one, he found one. And every time I get in it, I remember that day with my dad, that first time. And I was thinking about that, and without really putting it together, I said, so isn't that interesting? Would that be the first time you realized that for you, racing in cars was a team sport? And there was this weird silence on the phone. He started to laugh, and he said, I guess it was. I said, I know you race. And he said, yeah. And if anybody ever asked me, I would say that racing is my first love, but you're right. It isn't my first love. The team aspect of it is. And he kept kind of wandering off in our conversation and going, huh, and kind of laughing. And I would say, I don't think that you're actually present now. And he said, it's so odd, Abby, what you've done. You took me to a place that it's not that I've ever forgotten it, but I've never connected it. It's that day. And that day was the day I became who I am. And I said, well, my work here is done. And when we continued our conversation, but I had made a note of it because, wow. And so then this extraordinary thing happened. I interviewed about, 10 or 15 people for this book before the project took a different turn and they decided to put it on the shelf for a while. Every single person I interviewed, I found them talking about this man and their connection to him in a way that had a very strong, not only their personal affection or disaffection or friendly rivalry with him. Not only that, but there was a kind of a nostalgic tone in their voice. And so as soon as it became not weird, I asked them the same kind of question that I'd asked my friend. When was the first time can you remember the first time you? And then whatever their connection that they kept talking about was, I would fill that in. And this was bizarre. Every single one of them had a moment. And every single one of them was gobsmacked by the fact that they had never connected that moment with the fact that it had shaped every next thing they have always done. They never put it together. And I you know, when you do one thing and you do it a couple of times, and when you when you ask 7 or 8 different people who are only connected through this man, and they all give you the same answer, you say to yourself, that's something. I don't know what that is. So as soon as I could after that, I reached out to one of my therapist clients who I had helped with her memoir. And I said, I want you to listen to this, because this is weird, and I don't know what I've stumbled on. And so I told her what had happened. And she's a family therapist. She's a systems therapist, and how we connect and interact with our world kind of therapist. And she said, you know, you could be a therapist without ever going to college. This is extraordinary how you keep stumbling on this stuff. And she said, there isn't really a name for it, although we reference it all the time. It's not imprinting, this thing you've stumbled on. It's not imprinting in the way that, you know, you hear stories of these scientists who, there was a scientist, Conrad Lorenz, who raised ducklings because the mother duck had died. And when he wanted the ducklings to follow him, he put on a pair of yellow rubber boots and waded off, and they followed him. And then later on, when he realized that somebody had to teach these ducklings how to fly or they would die, he got in an ultralight and didn't know if it was going to work, but he wore the boots and everything, got in the ultralight. When it took off, the ducks followed him. So it became, I think he was the one who came up with the term imprinting. And what it means is that this is like a primitive survival blueprint that we acquire from the first moment we are old enough to identify with some warm, living, breathing creature, and we are imprinted onto that person. It's how you see penguins can find their parent on a beach, you know, and they all there's millions of them, and the penguin goes to exactly the right people. It's imprinting. My therapist friend said, what you've stumbled on isn't that. It's similar, but it's larger, and it has a more lasting and profound effect. And what you might want to call it is a life print, because what that resonating moment does at a pivotal time in our lives, usually we're old enough to have left the house, maybe it's our first year or two of school, so we're out in the world. It's our first opportunity to discover that there's more than one tribe, and it's within that window of time when something pivotal strikes a chord within us. It becomes a driving force. It becomes who we are. It becomes our signature. And we follow it. It shapes everything we do without us realizing it. And I said, like it's our calling. And she said, if you want to use that language, life passion, life purpose, the drive that we have, that is unique to us. That's why she said she used the word signature. It's not traumatic. It's dynamic, and it shapes all the decisions we make. And I said, so if I knew what someone did for a living, would I be able to profile what had probably happened to them? And she said, well, you might. It's I've done with my friend. she said, well, then you've opened their eyes. And what will probably have happened to your friend is that he will now see and understand in a whole different way. And he probably will continue to do what he does, but with more intention, with more purpose, because he's recognized it. And I said, why don't we recognize it? And she said, because it happened in our subconscious. The bond is in our subconscious. It's not something we consciously do. It's a survival mechanism, and it's our subconscious that is in charge of survival. It's our subconscious that will have locked that as a kind of identifier. I said, so it's not people like us? And she said, oh, no, it's not people like us. It's this is who I am. And I said, isn't that fascinating? She said, yes. And we all have it. Even if we don't think we do, we all have it. Because it happens to every one of us at around that time. So, what this means is that I now understand with greater clarity why some of the fans are locked onto certain shows in a different way. They may love watching episodes of something, 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 and they have favorites, but there will be one show, or there will be one activity, or there will be one food, or there will be one action that somehow triggered them, clicked with them, resonated with them. And though they don't know it, every day, everyone practices it. Everyone looks at everything through that lens. Everyone sees the world through that filter. Every opportunity is an opportunity to do that, whatever it is, whatever is our signature imprint. He teaches people road safety, driving safety. He works with car clubs to organize safe racing practices. His whole passion always reverts back to that. Everything he looks at through that lens. It's not simply or merely that life is a team sport. It's our vehicle, our mode of transportation, the way we get from where we are to where we need to be is a team sport. And I thought, hey, I've never mentioned this, I've never talked about it. But then when I finally got the Care Bear curtain, I thought this is something that I need to share with you. So the reason that I'm sharing it with you is because this is my true definition of pivotry. That and feel proud of who we are. We feel we have a place in the world. We no longer feel lost or confused or rudderless or unheard or unseen or unvalued when we know what our signature is. And the fact we're not aware of it, the fact that it's a subconscious brain function is one of the reasons that a lot of us are feeling so rudderless. It's one of the reasons we are exhausted. it's one of the reasons we're afraid. It's one of the reasons that we're angry. It's one of the reasons that we're yelling, because we don't know where we are, and we don't know when we will know where we are, and we don't know how it's all going to turn out, and we feel set adrift, more so than normal, because in the last couple of years, while we always have change and we always have crises and we always have things happening, the last couple of years have been spectacular in terms of holy cow. And if we weren't struggling before, we're certainly struggling now. And the reason I wanted to put the book together, the reason I wanted to interview people about it and get their stories about what they did to pivot, what they did, and what the trigger was, what the line in the sand was when they said, okay, that's enough. I'm sorry, that was lousy, but this is unacceptable. What it was that made them say, I'm not walking here, I'm walking here. What was that? And I interviewed all these people, and some of you are watching now. And I said, okay, this is the first round, and I will come back when I know what it is I have to ask you next. And and the funny thing is that the whole time I've been working on this since February, since it occurred to me that I needed to do this, I never thought about including this. I never thought about talking about our life print. I never thought about needing to do that until all of a sudden the universe shoved it into my conscious brain, and my brain says, oh yeah, duh. And so I thought, okay, so this is going to be really exciting. When I wrote my post last night and I said, be prepared, I'm going to knock your socks off today, I wasn't kidding. Because how this is exciting is that every single one of us had that moment. All of us, without exception. Every single one. And what we do, how we can see it, how we can see where it happens, how it comes up in our lives, is this. Ready? There is something we do that is effortless for us. Completely effortless. We don't consider it a big deal. People say, oh my God, how do you do that? I don't know. I always do it. That is the key. That. When people say, oh, they talk about you, oh, she's the one who, and they describe that thing you do. Whatever that thing is, you opened your eyes to it for the first time when you were young, very young, under the age of 10. Something happened, and you have always leaned into it. You know why you're good at it? You do it all the time, every day. You practice. You don't even know. You don't even know. And every single thing you look at, you see an opportunity to use it. And again, you don't consciously say, well, I will do that magic thing I do here. You don't do that. You just automatically do it because it's a subconsciously programmed solution. When it's this, we do that. It's fascinating because it is a way, once we're aware of it, it's a way for us to see the path we've been on. However it curves, wherever it goes, whatever happens, we are always doing that. Magic. I was reading something put together by a life coach who said that she, when she interviews people to find out where it is she feels that she can help them, she refers to this as the gift zone. And I thought, oh, isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? Yeah, that's a cool title, a cool name for it. I think that the word gift, if she's using it by saying gifted because you're extraordinarily good at it, then yes. If she meant that it's gifted to you, it's something that we chose. We were exposed to a moment. It resonated with us. It became who we are because it was who we needed to be. That's not really a gift. That's a decision. That's a choice we made. We, subconsciously, but we made it. And we continue to make it every day without realizing it. And I know that I approach everything using mine. So when I was thinking about her term, the gift zone, I thought, there's something more special about it than that. So I decided that I'm going to call it, I'm going to refer to it in the book, in Pivotry, I'm going to refer to it as our wow zone. It's when we do it, bagatelle, everybody else goes, wow. And we say, it's nothing. But the wow stands for walk on water, because it's effortless, because we defy gravity when we do it. It looks like we're walking on water. It looks like we are doing the impossible effortlessly. And I thought, I love that. I love that phrase, the wow zone. When we are in our wow zone, we are not ever sad or frustrated or unhappy or confused or lost or lonely or feeling threatened. We never are. When we're in that moment doing that thing, it's a purpose. It's just we're on track, and we're in that zone. And I said to myself, that's Pivotry. That's Pivotry. That's going a different way to get to where we want to go. That's Pivotry. So as this is evolving, and then the issue with the shower curtain, with the the unbearable delivery story, I thought, I navigated my way through that. I picked the stones I wished to walk upon across this nonsense, because I wasn't prepared to get upset about it. If it arrived, awesome. If it didn't arrive, I would find something else. I would find another way to create what I wanted to create. I allowed whatever was going to happen. And it's pretty uncanny. I mean, it's pretty crazy that first of all, undeliverable, second, delivered, and I'm thinking, okay, so, and I'm sending messages to these people saying it's not here, and I'm at the location and it's not here, and so these notices are what am I supposed to do? And what I saw coming back was indifference. What I saw coming back was mediocrity. What I saw coming back was unprofessional. What I saw coming back was incompetent. As a friend of mine says, what I saw coming back was somebody phoning it in. And I thought, if someone was unhappy and they wanted to turn their lives around and they didn't know how, wouldn't it be interesting to have a conversation with them and say, let's take you back to a time. Let's see if we can find your purpose and your passion. Let's see if we can find your signature print. It's not a footprint. It's a soul print. Let's see if we can find your signature. Let's see how many times you've accidentally, unconsciously, subconsciously used it. And then let's point you in that direction. Wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't that be interesting? Wouldn't it be exciting when it worked and the person saw that it worked? Wouldn't that be incredible? Because in that moment, the person would know that they did have a rudder, that they did have a direction, that they did have value, that they are seen, they are heard, they do make a difference, they do matter. And they would have come to that realization themselves. They would own the pivot they made. They would own the path they chose. Would that not be incredible? I think it would be game-changing. And I think that's part of what we need to do together. We need to have those conversations. We need to think about the things that we do easily, effortlessly, and see if we can remember the first time. See if we can remember the moment, the first time. And then look at all the times we've done it. I was talking to my therapist friend. I said, so when we do these things for people, we're really doing it for ourselves. And she said, well, we do everything for ourselves. Life is a selfish pursuit. We're not living anybody else's life, we're living ours. And I said, no, but we benefit others. And she said, well, we benefit the people we're meant to benefit. Really, what we're doing is polishing and perfecting this skill, this signature. And I said, that could change everything. And she said, I have every faith. I can't believe it, I'm just remembering this now. She said, I have every faith you're going to write about it one day. And here we are. Here we are. And I'm not doing it alone. Because when I realized mine, it was way, way long after I had been working on this project. I never really thought about mine. But I can remember, I can now when I think about it, I can remember 3 or 4 distinct moments that are definitely me doing that thing that I do. And the really interesting thing about it is, every single time I have had a crisis, I have hit a wall, and every single time there has been a rescue. There has been someone there. Someone who has said, no, I got you. Dusted me off, sent me on my way to keep doing it. Every single time. It's I'll write about it. You'll read it. It's really quite bizarre and cool. So as I say, the fact that I do something isn't proof that everybody does. No, quite the contrary. However, the opportunity to ask other people to see if I can help them connect their dots so that they can see it in their conscious brain, they can see it so they know it, is fascinating to me, because it verifies the thing that I recognized all those years ago. So that was the thing I felt was important to share with you today. It was, in a funny way, I illustrated the reverse of it with the disastrous way that this gorgeous shower curtain was delivered, in that they couldn't have been more wrong. Clearly, they're not following their path on their career. Clearly, they're not purposely driven. This isn't their signature work. It's like the thing that fell off the back of the bus. And you say to yourself, okay, so here's the difference. People with purpose do this. People without purpose do that. There's the contrast. So when you look around you, after this, when you walk away and you think and you look around you, you can identify in your life. I know it. I know it. You can identify in your life the people who are phoning it in and the people who are owning it. Oh, that's kind of cool. They're either phoning it or owning it. And when we own it and we practice and we get gooder at it, we're awesome. We're walking on water. We're in our zone. And that's the best part of our day. Every time. Because it's who we are. It's who we are. And that's amazing. And I think that the bottom line importance of it is this. When too many things happen and we have to keep pushing and pushing and pushing, and too many things keep happening, and we run out of steam and we run out of steam and we're exhausted, I think the reason that we feel so deflated and so lost is because we are doing our signature thing. And it's not producing the effect we expect. Because we're doing it when so much more is needed from so many more people like us. Because the challenge is so big. First responders, doctors, nurses, teachers, soldiers. We are doing our signature work. It takes a lot of signatures to win. It's not that we're not doing it enough. It's not that we're not good enough. It's not that we're not committed enough. It's that it takes more of us. And we need to stop and breathe. And we haven't been able to. We haven't felt we should or could. And that's why we're so tired. And that's why so many of us are sad and lost and deflated. It's why many more of us are angry and scared. Because they don't have a signature purpose. They ignored it or let it go or lost it along the way. And they are rudderless. And they're drifting. And they hate it, but they don't know how to fix it. Because they don't know how to get back to their signature purpose. They don't know how to go back in time and find that moment and make the decision to give it a try again. They simply don't know. It's not because they're not smart, and it's not because they don't care. It's because all of this stuff lives in our subconscious. And it takes somebody like a Viking with a stick to come over and go bonk. Hello. Is anybody in there? It requires an assist. Today I understand why people want to come to this FanaticCon event and wear the boa and get a hug. I get it. I understand. It's part of your signature moment. And I'm beyond honored to be part of that. I'm not your purpose. I was just the one who gave you the shove. And I'm thrilled. And those of you who can come to the event, it'll be awesome. And those of you who can't come to this event, there will be others. I can guarantee it. And we'll do the boa hug then. And it will be awesome then too. Okay. This is a shorter video today. I think I packed it with a fair amount of stuff though. I guess I want to end by telling you one of the things that showed me what I do. What I do, by the way, is I navigate. I find my way. I go out into uncharted waters. And the reason I do it fearlessly is every time I've tripped over something with teeth, somebody has yoinked me out of harm's way, dusted me off, given me a little shove, and I've carried on. The first time I am conscious of it, I would have been 5. I had been walked to pre-kindergarten. We lived in a very small place, small town. I had been walked to pre-kindergarten several times. And one day, my mother said, "Do you want to go yourself? Can you do it yourself?" And I said, "Yes, I can do it myself. Yes, of course." So I headed off. And the next moment in the story is a knock on my house on the front door. My mother opens the door, and she's surprised to find me standing there with a policeman who says, "Is this your daughter?" And my mother says, "Yes, what's happened?" And he said, "I'm not really sure what she's talking about, but she said she knew where she lived." My mother said, "Why? What did she say? What did you say?" And I had no idea, because 5. He said, "I found her standing on a street corner, looking confused. And I asked her what she was doing, because she's very young to be out alone. And she said that she was waiting for the horse." And my mother looked at me and said, "What?" And I said, "Every day when we go to school, we turn at the horse. There's a yellow house and we turn at the horse. I got to the yellow house, but there was no horse. I was waiting." And it turned out that somebody, as I say, a small community, somebody rode their horse every day. And on that day, either they were late or I was early, or something else had happened. But I had anchored in my mind that on my journey, navigating my way, that was a signpost. I turn at the horse. I didn't turn at the yellow house. I turned at the horse. The horse wasn't there. So I waited. I could have been kidnapped. I could have been lost. I could have wandered off. I could have been hurt. But out of nowhere, a policeman brought me back for a reset. And after that, I always left a little earlier. And you know, I always leave earlier for something important. I'm late for other stuff all the time. I always think I can do one more thing. But I'm always early for something important. You know why? I don't want to miss the horse. And I navigate that way all the time, every day. I turn at something important. And I'm fearless about it because I know that if I get it wrong, I'm going to get nudged back on course to get it right. I've got a ton of stories like that. It's crazy. And yet, when I look back at everything I do, every client I work with, every project I'm on, every story I write, every show I do, I'm venturing out into the unknown. The timing I have, the timing I have in my comedy, yeah, I'm turning at the horse. It's brilliant. So that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, humans of all shapes and sizes, is the knock your socks off video today. I have a feeling that more than the others, more than the other videos and stories and ideas and nuggets that I've shared with you, I have a feeling that this one is really going to give you something hugely valuable to you. I think it's going to give you something to explore, to look into, to think about, and to share with me and the rest of us. I think I've found a path for you. And I'll help you turn at the horse. How's that? Okay. The rest of today and tomorrow, I'm going to get busy organizing all this stuff for the FanaticCon event. Woohoo! And Thursday, I will be back with more adventures. And I think it's going to be amazing. In the meantime, between now and then, be good to you. Think about who you are. Think about your signature. Think about your wow zone. I can't wait to hear all about it. Don't forget to hug your loved ones.